Hi everyone, let's learn about the concept of disk management today. So in disk management, in this topic, we are going to learn about what are all the different aspects of disk management which is managed by the operating system. Okay, basically there are three aspects of disk management which is managed by the operating system. So which are listed on the screen now. So the first one is called as disk formatting, also called as disk initialization. Second one is boot blocks, managing of boot blocks, and the third one is bad blocks recovery. Okay, so we'll see about each of them in detail now. So first one is disk formatting. Okay, so what is disk formatting? We previously, in my previous video, I told you about the structure of a magnetic disk. So, but when a magnetic disk is manufactured in factory, it is just a blank platter of a magnetic recording material. That is, it doesn't have any data stored inside it. Okay, for a disk to store the data, you have to divide the platter into sectors. Okay, only if you divide the platter into sectors, your disk controller will be able to read or write the data onto the disk. Now this process is called as low level formatting or physical formatting. Okay, important terminologies have been mentioned in the have been mentioned in the screen here. So what is low level formatting or physical formatting? Physical formatting or low level formatting is nothing but you are dividing your platter, which is initially a blank plate. The platter is divided into sectors. Dividing the platter into sectors so that the disk controller can read or write the data into it is called as low level formatting. Now this low level formatting also involves one more thing. The disk will be filled with a special data structure for each sector. Okay, we know that in a magnetic hard disk we'll have circular tracks and each track is divided into sectors, right? So a special data structure is filled for every sector of every track. And this data structure consists of three parts, namely the you will be having the header and then the data area and then the trailer. Okay, this data area portion may be of you can the this can be you can choose between different sizes of for the data area, namely 256 bytes or 512 bytes or 1024 bytes. And apart from that, we also have the header and the trailer for every sector. Okay, so what are we going to have in this header and the trailer is, it is going to contain two things. One is the sector number and the other one is the error correcting code. These two information will be used by the disk controller. Okay, sector number and the error correcting code. Now you have this error correcting code. Why do I say that it is error correcting code? What happens in the error correcting code is, whenever the disk controller is writing some doing a write operation on the sector, right? Whenever the disk controller is doing a write operation, the error correcting code is updated. How is it updated? uh, uh, the error correcting code is updated with a value which is calculated from all the bytes in the data area. So what do we do is, what happens is that a special value will be calculated, and that value will be calculated from all the bytes in the data area. I told you that you have the header, data area and trailer, right? With all the bytes available in the data area, this error correcting code will be calculated whenever a write operation is performed on the sector. Whenever a read operation is performed on the sector, what happens is that the error correcting code is calculated again. So now what is a disk controller will be doing is, it will compare the error correcting code which it has obtained during the write operation with the error correcting code which it has obtained during the read operation. So both the error correcting code should actually match. If they don't match, it means that the data has become corrupted. The disk sector has become a bad sector. So now the this is called as error correcting code because if only few bits of data is corrupted, then the disk controller has a capability to identify which bits have been corrupted, and it can calculate the correct values for those corrupt bits. That's why it's called as error correcting code. So with the error correcting code, the disk controller is able to identify which bits have become corrupted, and it is also possible for the disk controller to recalculate the bits and identify the correct values for the bits. That's why it's called as error correcting codes. So since it is possible for the disk controller to recover from such errors, whenever the data gets corrupted, if only a few bits are being corrupted, then with the help of the error correcting code, the disk controller can detect such errors. So such types of errors are called recoverable soft errors. Okay. And so now I told you what is the meaning of all this is about low level formatting or physical formatting. So low level formatting is nothing but, so your empty magnetic platter has to be divided into sectors for the disk controller to read and write the data. So that is called low level formatting. And this is usually done at the factory level itself as part of the manufacturing process itself. Okay, so when low level formatting is done as part of manufacturing process, manufacturer itself himself will map the logical block numbers to defect free sectors on the disk. But this is not sufficient. Okay, for the OS to use this disk to hold the file system, the OS has to load its own data structures onto the disk. Okay, the OS has to load its own data structures. Previously, in my previous lectures, I told you that you have two types of data structures: in-memory data structures and on-disk data structures. And on-disk data structures are nothing but the boot control block, volume control block, your on-disk directory structure, and you also have the file control block, right? So if your OS has to use the disk to hold the file system, it has to load all those data structures onto the disk. So for this, you have two steps. First step is called as partitioning. Okay, in partitioning, the disk will be divided into one or more groups of cylinders. Partition is nothing but splitting the disk into one or more groups of cylinders. And the second step is called as logical formatting. So in this logical formatting only, OS will load its data structures onto the disk. I told you that just now I told you the data structures, that is your boot control block, volume control block, etc. All those data structures will be loaded onto the disk, and that step is called as logical formatting. Okay. So sometimes file systems may also be grouped together into bigger blocks called as bigger chunks called as clusters. Okay, in that case, the file system input output will be done via clusters. So that is all about your disk formatting. All this will be done by the operating system. So we saw what is low level formatting. Low level formatting will mostly is done at the factory level, and here the empty magnetic platter will be divided into blocks called sectors, and then the device controller can read and write on those sectors. And every sector has to be loaded with a data structure which contains header, data area, and trailer, and that is also managed during low level formatting. And then the OS will perform partitioning as well as logical formatting. So the next step is the next operation performed as part of disk management is called as boot block. Okay, first operation is your disk formatting. Second operation is boot block. Now we all know that we have something called as bootstrap program. Whenever you switch on the computer, the first program which gets loaded into the computer's memory is called as the bootstrap program. Okay, this initial bootstrap program is responsible for a lot of things like initializing the CPU registers. It will initialize the memory contents. It will load the device controllers. It will also start the operating system. So what it will do is, so it will find the location of the operating system kernel on the disk, and it will start executing the operating system from some initial address. Okay, so that is how initial booting will usually happen, and this bootstrap program is usually stored in a read-only memory. This bootstrap program is usually stored in read-only memory, and there are a lot of reasons for storing it in ROM. Because ROM doesn't need any initialization, and ROM doesn't get easily affected by a computer virus, and ROM is always at a fixed location, so it's easier for the computer to locate the ROM. So that's why bootstrap program is usually stored in the ROM. But we have a problem here. When the bootstrap program is stored in the ROM, what happens is that whenever the bootstrap program code has to be changed, then the entire ROM set of ROM chips has to be changed. So in order to avoid this problem, what we actually do is we will have a tiny bootstrap loader program on the ROM. Okay, in the ROM we'll have a tiny bootstrap loader program, so which will get loaded as soon as you switch on the computer, and then this tiny bootstrap loader program will load the full bootstrap loader program. Okay, now this full bootstrap loader program will be there on the disk, and the portion of the disk where this full bootstrap loader program resides is called as the boot blocks. Okay, whenever your hard disk has a boot partition, it is also called as boot disk or a system disk. Okay, so this is the concept. We are going to have, instead, if we have the bootstrap program in the ROM, then ROM is not, we cannot change the contents of the ROM. So for that, we'll have a tiny bootstrap loader program on the ROM, and the full bootstrap loader program will be residing on the disk. And the portion where the full bootstrap loader program resides on the disk is called as boot blocks, and managing of these boot blocks is another aspect which is performed by the operating system. So let's see how it is being done. So what happens is, as soon as you switch on the computer, the code in the boot ROM gets initialized, right? Boot ROM is nothing but your ROM which contains the tiny bootstrap loader program. So the boot ROM gets initialized, and this boot ROM will instruct the device controller to read the boot blocks into memory. The boot blocks will be there on the hard disk. So the boot ROM will instruct the device controller to read the boot blocks into memory, and so this boot blocks will start executing that code. And these boot blocks are capable of loading the entire operating system from the hard disk. So this entire operating system may be residing at any location on the hard disk, and the boot blocks are capable of loading the entire operating system and then starting the execution from that location. Okay, that is how it happens, and that is how it is being managed by the operating system. So as an example, consider an example of how booting happens in Windows operating system. Okay, in Windows operating system, we all know that the hard disk is may be divided into several partitions, and one portion of the partition may be reserved for storing the boot partition. Okay, this boot partition will contain your operating system and the device drivers. And one sector of the hard disk is reserved for storing your master boot record. Here MBR denotes the master boot record. So one first sector on the hard disk is reserved for storing the master boot record, and this master boot record contains the boot code as well as the partition table. Partition table contains information about which is the boot partition in the hard disk. I told you there may be several partitions, out of which one may be reserved as the boot partition. So this partition table contains information about which is the partition which is going to store your operating system and the device drivers. Okay. So what happens is that you switch on the computer system. As soon as you switch on the computer system, the code in the ROM gets executed, and the code in the ROM will direct the system to read the boot code from the master boot record. Okay. The code which is there in your ROM chips will instruct the system to read the boot code from the master boot record. And then this master boot record, we know that it contains a partition table which contains your listing about which contains the information about the boot partition. So once the boot code gets executed, the system identifies the boot partition, and it will start reading the first sector from the hard disk. Okay, when it reads the first sector from the hard disk, it continues with the loading of other subsystems and system services. So this is how booting happens from the disk in Windows operating system. And the third task of disk management, which is performed by the operating system, is handling of bad blocks. Okay. Now, bad blocks happen due to variety of reasons. One is we know that your disk contains a lot of moving parts. Like your disk contains your read-write head. Read-write head constantly moves to locate the desired track or to locate the desired sector. So disks are prone to a lot of failures, right? So when it has moving parts and when it has small tolerance, it may be subject to failures. And sometimes when the blocks are manufactured, hard disk was manufactured from the factory. So that time, as part of the manufacturing process itself, there will be a lot of bad blocks. Okay, so then these are some of the reasons for bad blocks to exist. And so when there are bad blocks in a hard disk, how are we going to handle the bad blocks? There are two ways in which bad blocks can be handled. One is manual handling, and the other one is by using sector sparing or forwarding, and the third is by using sector slipping. So the first one is by using manual handling of blocks. So the first one is about manual handling of blocks. So manual handling of blocks is nothing but we will use commands like, for example, in MS-DOS operating system, we have the format command or the check disk operation. So what do we do in this format command is it performs logical formatting. That is, it will scan the hard disk for the bad blocks. And whenever it finds the bad block, it will write a special value into the corresponding FAT entry, so that the allocation routines are informed that that particular bad block should not be used for any operation. Similarly, MS-DOS operating system also has a check disk operation. So in the case of check disk operation, during normal operation, this check disk program will be run. This check disk program will be run manually it will search for bad blocks and it will be logged so that the allocation routines will not be able to use them. But the thing is, when you use this format command or the check disk program, then the data and the bad blocks may get lost. The second approach to handle the bad blocks is by using sector sparing or forwarding. Now, we know that we have SCSA disks which are used in high-end computer systems. We know that SCSA stands for Small Computer Systems Interface. So what they will do is they will make use of the sector sparing or forwarding. So here the controller, device controller will contain a list of bad blocks, will keep maintaining a list of bad blocks on the disk, and this list will be initialized during low level formatting at the factory itself, but then it will be updated throughout the life cycle of the disk. So here some set of sectors will be kept as spare sectors, but these spare sectors are not visible to the operating system. Okay, whenever a block becomes a bad block, the controller will be instructed to replace each such bad block with the spare sector. Okay, to replace it with one of the spare sectors, and this technique is called as sector sparing or sector forwarding. And the next technique is called as sector slipping. So in sector slipping, some controllers, so here also again the device controllers will be instructed to replace a bad block by using the technique of sector slipping. So what is sector slipping is that, let's say logical block number 99 becomes bad block. Logical block number 99 becomes a bad block, then let's say I have to move it to, I have to move the contents to block number 100. So in that case, let's say block number 100 is not a spare sector. It is being occupied with some contents, and say the spare, let's say the spare sector is there in block number 200. Then what happens is the contents of 199 will be moved to 200, 198 will be moved to 199, 197 will be moved to 198, and so on. That is, every sector will be moved down by one position. Everything will be, all the sector contents will be moved down by one spot, so that logical block number 99's contents can be moved down to block number 100. So this is called as sector slipping. You have your spare sector somewhere else and your bad block somewhere else. So you move all down by one spot so that you will be able to accommodate your bad blocks contents in the next immediate block, which is available. Okay, now this technique is called as sector slipping. Usually when you do replacement of a bad block, it is not fully automatic because we don't want to lose the data in the bad blocks. So mostly we will do a copy of the block data will be made, and the block will be either replaced either by using sector sparing or by using sector slipping. So that is all about the different aspects of disk management. We saw that OS performs 3 aspects with respect to disk management. One is disk formatting, the second one is handling of bad blocks, and the third one is about operating the boot blocks. Okay, that is all about disk management. See you in my next video. If you found the contents of this video useful, do like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.